Student loan isn't like another loan.
Yeah.
What you have to remember is there's two separate factors. There's this paper account of how much you owe,
That's the 50 grand.
and totally separately there's how much you need to repay.
Right.
And this is the one to worry about.
Right.
Everybody focuses on the amount borrowed, but for most people, what counts is how much of your loan you actually have to repay.
Anyone doing maths here or a sciencey subject? Economics. Right, you're on. Okay. It's not going to be difficult. You repay 9% of everything you earn above £21,000. If you earn £22,000, which is 1,000 above £21,000, how much do you pay?
90 quid.
90 quid. If you earn £31,000, which is 10,000 above, how much do you repay?
900.
£900.
So simply, what you repay increases as your earnings increase. Now, let's throw in changing what you borrowed in the first place.
If your student loan is £20,000 and you earn £31,000, how much do you repay in a year?
900.
If your student loan's £50,000 and you earn £31,000, how much do you repay in a year?
Same again, 900.
Now, to prove a point, let's get silly.
If they put tuition fees up to £1 million a year and you owe £3 million and you earn £31,000, how much do you repay?
Same again, yeah.
900.
Yeah.
You're starting to see where I'm going with this.
And let's really ramp it up. I'm going to throw in hideous interest as well.
If they put the interest rate up to 100% and tuition fees are £3 million a year and you earn £31,000, how much do you repay?
Same again?
The same again. Pretty much what you borrow to go to university and the interest that is added on top, for most of you, is completely irrelevant. Because what counts is that 9% of everything you earn above £21,000.
OK, so I get you pay 9%, but how long do you have to pay that for?
Well, you pay it for 30 years unless you clear what you borrowed plus the interest sooner, or if you die, because it doesn't pass on to your estate.
OK, but I'm still confused, OK, because you're saying the debt and the interest have no impact, but that doesn't make sense to me.
I'm saying they don't impact what you pay a year.
Right.
They do impact the overall cost, and the really big effect of debt and interest, how much you borrow, is whether or not you'll clear what you borrowed within the 30 years before it wipes. Now, of course, with the repayment threshold going up from 21,000 to 25,000, people will repay £360 a year less than they are doing right now, which means fewer people will clear it within the 30 years. It's actually estimated 83% of university leavers will keep paying for the whole 30 years, which is why I say, forget concentrating on the debt. This works more like an additional tax. You pay it through the payroll. It doesn't go on your credit file. This is the reality of student finance. Look, this is based on the current year's tax thresholds. You can earn up to £11,500 a year and you don't pay any tax. Same for those who haven't gone to uni as those who have under the current system. Then you start paying basic rate tax to 11.5 grand, so 20% for both. Now here, at the £21,000 threshold currently, £25,000 in April is where it changes. Non-university leavers pay 20%. Uni leavers start paying 29%. And the higher rate threshold, it's 40% for non, 49% for those who've been to university. And if you're lucky enough to earn the top rate, 45% and 54%. So that additional 9% tax, conceptually, is the way to think of the cost of going to uni. I'm not saying it's cheap, but I'm saying working out I borrowed 50 grand, well, it doesn't really work like that in practice for most people.
But is this basically a graduate tax?
Well, that's a politically loaded question. I would call it a graduate contribution system because it isn't technically the same as a graduate tax. And I know this is political, and I know some people won't like what I'm saying because they're saying I'm softening the system. I'm not. This isn't a call about good or bad. This is about how you think about the practical impact on your pocket. It isn't cheap, but it's much more like a tax than a loan.
Now, Master, we're being asked by lots of people about this 6.1% interest. Should students or their parents be paying it off if they've got the money?
Well, let me start to take you through that here.
Yes, we're back with our mums in Manchester.
Let's say your son earns £22,000 for the next 30 years, and you know it wipes after 30 years.
It definitely does it?
Unless they have a substantial rule change,
Okay.
it'll wipe in 30 years, and that's unlikely, right? If he earns £22,000 a year,
Yeah.
he's never getting close to repaying what he borrowed, never mind the interest.
Okay.
Right? So that interest is irrelevant. Okay, I've stopped it there because this is a real brain twister and I want to use my board to explain. It's about the difference between the interest that's added to your student loan, that's what everyone talks about, and what really counts, the interest you'll actually repay. Now this changes every academic year based on the rate of inflation, currently 3.1%. While you're studying, inflation plus 3% is added to your statement from day one, and then in the April following graduation, it depends on what you earn. And the good news is those thresholds are going up this April, so under 25 grand it'll just be inflation, over 45 grand inflation plus 3% and a sliding scale between the two. But this is what counts. Remember, you repay 9% of everything above the threshold. So I've got a graph here, this is your earnings, this is the total repaid over 30 years. If you never earn over the threshold, well, you won't repay a penny at all. But even if you do go above that, if you don't earn enough to repay your initial borrowing, then effectively student loans are interest-free. Even above that, for an estimated 83% of university leavers, you will not earn enough in 30 years to repay what you borrowed plus all the interest. So your effective interest rate is lower than the interest added, lower than the interest you see on your statement. Only the top 17% of earners repay all the interest added. So they're the only ones who can do a direct comparison between student loan interest and other financial products like personal loans and say they may be cheaper. For everyone else, in practice, you're paying less interest than the 6.1%. If you're trying to work out where this is, it's incredibly difficult based on loads of assumptions, but roughly say someone on starting salary of 40 grand and above inflation pay rises afterwards, top earners. Do you get it?
I get it. Clear explanation. But are you saying that it's not worth overpaying your student loan?
That all depends on what you earn. So imagine you've got £50,000 debt initially and you want to repay £10,000 off it, so you owe 40 grand. Well, if you don't earn enough to clear the 40 grand plus interest over the 30 years, then overpaying the £10,000 has been pointless because it doesn't lower what you'll repay in future. You've effectively thrown 10 grand away. So it's only people on the higher ends of the earning spectrum who should consider overpaying, unless you've got enough to clear the entire amount. Back to the film. Your son, what job has he got?
Just in business. He did an economics degree.
Is he going to be a high earner?
Yes, I think so. That's the thing.
Right, no, well, do you know what? Congratulations. I hope your son has to pay a fortune back on his student loan, because it means he will have earned a lot of money.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay? You asked me, should I worry about it as a mother?
Is it nothing we should try and help
No.
him with, or?
If your son earns enough to be a high rate taxpayer, would that worry you that he's got to pay high rate tax? Would you save up to pay it for him?
No.
It'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it? That's what
Yeah.
you're saying to me.
Yeah.
So your son is only going to pay all the interest if he earns enough to clear this within 30 years. That means he's one of our seriously high earners.
Right. I think, is it worth it now?
But you, no, well, he's a high earner.
Yeah. Well, he hopes to be better.
Well, he hopes to be. Would he be that if he hadn't gone to university?
That's a good point, yes.
And life's about swings and roundabouts, and he's done it now, so get on with your life and stop worrying.
That's true. Okay.
The biggest thing you can do to help your son right now is saving a deposit to get a house.
Yeah.
That's far more difficult than paying the student loan, which you just pay through the tax system.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you both.
Thank you for your time.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
I hope that put your mind at rest a little.
You have. Thank you very much.
Good.
It really is very different to the way most people talk about this.
Very. I should say, those mums asked me, should they be worried? Of course, if you've got loads of spare cash you want to give to your high-earning graduate offspring, then there's no problem doing so. And also, I'm not saying university is for everyone. In fact, what you need to think about is it worth going because you're going to pay effectively 9% extra tax?
We've got a Q&A coming later, but a quick question now from
Yep.
Patricia and many others who are asking, could they change the rules?
Yes, Parliament is omnicompetent. I hope they won't. You know, it should be that the system you start on is the same one you finish repaying. But they could do. Of course, it could go either way. There has been talk of one party wanting to wipe all the debt. So if you're overpaid now, you would have thrown that money away if they did it. But all I can do is explain it based on the system as it works now and as I expect it to be in the future. No guarantees though.